Lone Rider here with a archery suggestion, and I noticed this the other day when I was at the target range. If you have more than two people basically shooting at a target, whether it's a traditional target, whether it's a 3D target that looks like a deer or something, or whether it's an improvised target, if you have more than two people shooting at it, basically, so three or more people, um, chances are that there's going to be overlap in their arrows. And even if you only have two people, if they don't both have matched sets of arrows, if one person isn't using green and one person isn't using red, or whatever, if you have two novice archers who are using maybe cadged together improvised kits, so they both have mismatched arrows, or you have two experienced old grizzled archers who are both using arrows that are non-matching because they've been doing it for so long. They have bits and pieces of you know different sets of arrows that are all more or less the same but different colors, and so on and so forth. I mean, if you have two people shooting and they both have two completely uniform sets of arrows, chances are they're not going to be the same. But if you have more than two people shooting, or if either of those two people or both has a mismatched set, chances are you're going to get some mix up. And you go to pull your arrow out, and if somebody else's looks like it, you might grab the wrong one, etc. Um, Similarly, if the arrow's lost outdoors, at an indoor range, this isn't going to be an issue. At an outdoor range, you're shooting, you lose an arrow, it goes in the brush. You're like, gosh darn it, that was an expensive arrow. I don't want to lose it. But you figure it's gone. And then you come to the range the next day and somebody's going, hey, I found this really cool arrow. Um, and it's yours, but you're like, whatever. There's no way to show it's yours because it looks exactly like any other arrow of that type. So what I did with this is I just customized it a little. And people do all kinds of stuff. They'll paint a little bit of the shaft. They'll color part of the feathers differently. There's anything that you could really have done with this. What I did, I mean, some people put their initials on it. What I did with this is I just put stripes on the feather that was the off feather. So when you're shooting this, this is the feather that's going to be to the outside. Um, so the standard fletching on this arrow is two reds and a plain white. And I just took that plain white feather and I put black lines on it, black stripes. And it didn't take any special gear, any special equipment. I literally just used a Sharpie, a Black Magic permanent marker. Put the thing on my knee and just like that, and then flipped it over and did the other side. And this does two things. It makes it different from any other arrow that anybody can buy of this brand with this fletching pattern. So it makes it unique, as much as putting your initials on it or spray painting the knock a funny color or whatever. Um, However, it makes it unique, but it's also kind of cool because I mean, this is the pattern that you basically see on like natural feathers that are used, from birds that are used to fletch, traditional arrows. You usually find that they have a stripe pattern. Um, I want to say that's turkey feathers, but I'm not entirely sure. The only actual like natural bird feathers that I've used to fletch, and some of these are, I think, bird feathers that are just processed, dyed and stuff. I don't know how that works, but some some of the actual. I've actually had feathers gathered for me by relatives that they found on the ground from birds, and I've just cut them to shape and glued them on homemade arrows. Um, it's been seagull feathers because that's just the only thing that was there. I told some relatives, hey, when you go to the beach, gather some feathers for me if you can, and they did that. Um, but yeah, the traditional pattern on the feathers that are often used here in America anyway, which I think is turkey, is the light and dark stripe. So choosing that as a little customization for the arrow, yeah, it distinguishes it from if somebody else has two whites and or I should say two reds and a white feather. That's I mean, that might be a fairly common pattern. This arrow is entirely different, and it also has two reds and a white. So I mean, and this is a wood arrow that probably predates this gold tip carbon arrow by 2 or 3 decades, and it has the same color pattern. So it's not to say that, oh, well, I have two reds and a white. There's no way anybody could have the same thing. Well, 30, 40 years ago, some guy had the same thing. This antique wooden arrow is the exact same color pattern, if nothing else. Now, the knock's different. The size is different. These have more of a helical twist. And obviously, the shaft on this is wood. But the point is, if you're just looking at the fletching colors, well, two reds and a white. Two reds and a white. But even if they were both carbon shafts that had red knocks, there's no way you're getting them confused because this has the stripes on. So just a little cool way to customize it that doesn't take hardly any time. Literally, I sat down with a Sharpie while I was, watching reruns of an old X-Files episode from, like 1993, and I just went and then flipped it over and did the same thing. And like I said, it's a way to customize the arrow, but it also looks kind of neat. There's other ways of customizing it that are more. Remember those things people used to put on their antennas back in the 80s so they could try and find their car in a giant parking lot? A lot of them were really dorky. Yeah, that's what a lot of arrow customizations look like, at least to me. This at least gives it sort of the air of something traditional and vintage. It's better than neon spray paint anyway, in my opinion. So, just a little tip there. If you want to make sure you don't get your arrows mixed up with somebody else who's got the same fletchings, that's something that you can do very quickly with a Sharpie while you're watching TV, while you're, sitting on the train. Well, maybe not sitting on the train. Somebody might wonder why you're bringing arrows, but seriously, when you're just like sitting down one day for 5 minutes, doesn't take long, easy as eating pancakes, and your arrows will be very distinctive. So there we go. Lone Rider out.